They just actually split the mission, and they used to just have a north, south, and east, and now there's north, south, east, west missions. So our mission got a little smaller. We used to have part of the coast in our mission, but they had given that to another mission. But the work in Argentina is definitely progressing fast because the members down there know how to work. That's something really unique about those kind of areas. They understand the gospel, and then it's their life, and it's just, but really small mission. It's about, I don't know exactly how it is now because they just barely changed it, but you can probably get to anywhere from one point to the other in about 5 hours. Although so many people, you need so many missionaries in almost every area. And Buenos Aires is huge, but they really did know who we were. It was either we were from the Mormon church, or we were, I don't know how to say in English, Testigos de Jehová. Jehovah's Witnesses. There we go. Those were the two people that were really just adamant about doing missionary work down in Argentina. So it was either one of those. So if they stop and ask you if you're Jehovah's Witness, make sure they know that you are from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they really don't, they never hear that as much. It's always the Mormon. And once you sit down and tell them what our real name is, then sometimes they're more open to listening to you. Yeah. I don't know really what it is, but Argentines were a little bit more on the stubborn side. They just the Pope is from Argentina, and so most of the people are Catholic, and they've grown up Catholic, and they're never going to change type Catholic. And the people from Peru were maybe a little bit more open to the idea that maybe that's not right, maybe they don't have all the truth, and they were more open to praying and actually finding out for themselves. And people from Argentina are also willing to listen, but it just takes a lot longer for them maybe to make that click that what we share is actually something that can benefit them. And it takes a while to maybe get there, but I think the more you get to know them and joke with the people you meet and let them know that you're actually human beings, not just like nuns walking down the street, just nothing else, but we are people and we can connect with them on different levels because we have those same things in common. And that helped me a lot to be able to get to the hearts of the people in Argentina, is just joking with them, like, hey, just maybe a little bit about soccer. They love soccer. So you can joke about them, about how the games are going, or maybe just anything random that you see going on, just joking with them, getting to that level. Then they open up to you. We had bikes for about 2 of my areas, and the other 2 we walked. And the areas that I had bikes in, they got stolen. And so then we ended up walking. And so, yeah, mainly walking. The only people that really had cars in the mission were the elders in charge of apartments, and of course the mission president. But yeah, the rest of us were walking. They have good buses that you buy a little Sube card, and you can get on buses that really get you around pretty well. Except I guess when you're in the really, really smaller cities that don't have as many buses. But yeah, in this mission you will walk a lot. I started in La Plata 2, I guess it was called. And then, which is a really big city. And then I went to Cañuelas, which is a little smaller place where they have a tiny little branch. And then I went back to another area in La Plata called El Bosque, just a little bit farther north. And then I ended my mission in Alejandro Corn, which was a bit of a mix. It wasn't super tiny, but it wasn't super city. But yeah, I got 4 areas, and I was in each for 3 transfers each. So it's a pretty well spaced out mission and area. Cow stomach or pig's foot were the craziest things I had. Any part of the cow. There was a time when we were trying to talk to this guy. We were introducing ourselves and where we were from. And he was a bit older guy. He was like maybe 60s. And I remember when we were about to leave, he had like tried to get his arms around my neck to try and kiss me. And I just remember like looking at my companion trying to like get away, and she was like trying to punch him like, get away, no. But then as we tried to leave, he started chasing us down the road because he's like, no, I want you to tell me more, I want to learn more about you. Just not a good situation. They're really lovey down there, so you have to be careful if the guys try and kiss you. Just always praying and changing your routes as you go home. That is what they always told us to do, so that you don't get people seeing you go the same way every night, so they can kind of follow you home. For me, it was more just not understanding what they would say. I remember one time we had lunch with some members, and they had this green drink in front of me. And I thought it was, okay, well, what I thought was a drink, it was actually Jell-O. And so I remember them telling me, because like, oh, this is a cool drink, it looks like Kool-Aid. And they were like, apparently telling me that it was Jell-O, and I didn't understand a word they said. And so I go to drink it, and the Jell-O just falls on my face. And, I didn't understand what they told me afterwards, but it was so fun because in that moment, I just remembered in my head, okay, it's okay, laugh at yourself. And I clicked with that family just so easily, just because we could laugh, and I got stories out of them, like their embarrassing stories. And but yeah, more than anything, it was just not understanding and doing weird things, and members would be like, what are you doing? Like, she just nods and says yes all the time. Yeah, just keep on going, laugh at yourself, and it just works out. In my last area, with that family of 12 that I had talked about, they were going through so much, more than that we felt like they should have to go through for a family. But I remember just one of my last lessons with them, they had explained to me that all of their trials had helped them get to know the church. All their trials helped them get to be baptized. And I've been messaging them on Facebook lately, and they just barely, about a week ago, got to go through the temple. And they said the same thing. All these trials helped us get to the temple. If she hadn't gone sick, we wouldn't have been as humble to listen to you guys, and we just would not have made it here. And it just made me reflect on my mission. There's hard things we go through, but it is ultimately to shape us into what the Lord wants us to be. And we can learn so much from those things as we go through them. But just to see that family just recognize those things was incredible. And I think I saw that with a lot of other families as well, but to see how they dealt with their problems and how they were just so diligent, and they did it with a smile, and they just made the best out of their situations. And I know that's how the Lord helped mold them into the gospel, and they are so strong in the gospel. And it's because I don't let those hard things weigh them down, ever. It's something that I've definitely have to work on, but trying to incorporate into my life, being home. But probably that. It would have to be that I learned how to truly repent. I learned how to truly change. With companions, living with someone 24/7, you really realize a lot about yourself and things that you need to change and things you can improve on, because you have comp inventory where you get to tell each other, what you're doing great, things maybe you can improve on. And learning how to say, I'm sorry for doing things, and for just being so humble and learning those true steps to repentance, and then being able to teach that to other people has been one of the greatest lessons, because that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to admit that you've done something wrong, admit that maybe your thinking isn't the right way, or maybe it's just different, but a mission definitely helps you be able to change and to know how to repent. And when you see it in yourself, and then you see it in other people as you teach, it's something really special. When I first got to Argentina, the members would watch me eat, and they'd watch how I'd hold my utensils. And I joke, I have a list of things that I've learned on the mission, and one of the first ones is I learned how to use my fork correctly. In Argentina, they're really specific about how you should hold your fork or hold your knife and how you should eat. And so I learned the true way, at least the way they do in Argentina, of how to hold your utensils and also how to cook those foods in Argentina. I had 2 companions that were from Argentina, and so I got to actually learn to cook those foods, and so that was really fun to do. And probably just learning how to plan. Something is huge. Because I've been terrible with that in my life. Just learning how to have a planner and actually write out what I need to do that day and get those things done. There's lots of different things you learn, but those are some of the different ones. In our mission, it rained, and it rained a lot, and it was really humid, and so it could get really, really cold. So their winter, it just rains, and in the summer, it just gets really, really hot. But I remember in Cañuelas, my second area, we were really far from home, walking home, and we see this dark, I've never seen clouds like them before. They were just black, coming over the sky, so it was like white and black. And as it came over, you could literally see the rain starting to fall from the clouds. And I just remember looking at my companion. I was training her, like, run! Just like trying to get into the next member's house as that was the closest. But I've never seen rain come down that hard, and I've never heard thunder like I heard that night. And we actually had to stay in our apartment for the next day because it just was all day long. But yeah, they don't have any snow or anything crazy like that, but they would get crazy thunderstorms, and the rain can come down hard. So yeah, that was probably one of the craziest weather ones. I was pretty blessed. I didn't get sick. I got sick once, and that was because I ate something really bad, and I found that out after I had thrown it up. But I never got sick from anything, nothing crazy. I heard some people that got sick, and it was mainly from the water. And so make sure you either buy your water or you have a really good filter, because sometimes that's the main cause of getting sick in Argentina, is just their water is not the cleanest. So make sure and drink clean water. And if you're with members or other people that offer you water, pray. And that helped for me, so luckily I never got sick. I would just say to love the people and just get to know those members. Those are just the heart of all of my experiences in Argentina. They're so great, and they know what's important, and they know how to do missionary work. So trust them, give them your ideas, but trust the way that they do it as well. Sometimes they have it's either their way or the highway, but it's so good to be able just to listen to them and help them do what they think should be done. But yeah, Argentina has definitely got a special place in my heart. It's just so different, but yeah, you miss it so much. You miss seeing the people dancing on the streets. They do tango a lot down there. And I miss seeing everyone sitting outside their doors drinking mate. And miss seeing people just love soccer like they did down there. I was down there during the World Cup, and so I just got crazy, but it was so fun to see their love for soccer and the love they have for each other. The Buenos Aires South Mission, it actually doesn't even take in Buenos Aires, the city. So there's a province called Buenos Aires, and so in that province there's a city. And then our mission takes about like a little bit south of the city, so like the ghetto side of the city. Really, it's a pretty ghetto mission, but that's what makes it so amazing. So we have, like, there's a couple bigger cities, like La Plata, that's actually the capital of the province, and so that's a big city down there. And so, but a lot of times there's like the elders are in the bigger cities, and then the sisters are in the like countrysides and stuff, which is like way fun. So it takes in about, I couldn't tell you area wise, but it's like an hour or two kind of from one end to the other. But then there's another area that just takes in a part of the coast. And so like the coast is really far away from the whole other mission. They have to drive like 3 hours. So if you're down on the coast, you like never see anything until you get transferred again. So there's a whole zone down there. It's really pretty down there because they get to see the beach all the time. Mostly it's just branches down there though. But I hear the members are really amazing. I never got to serve there, but it was really pretty. I would say that in our mission, there was probably a mix of branches and wards. There were only a couple like really big wards that I ever served in, because a lot of it, well, maybe the membership wise is big, but there's a lot of less actives. I would say that was a lot of our work, is just doing less active work, finding people that had joined 10 years ago and helping them remember their testimony. So I'd say like the church is still kind of young down there. Like the people are still learning how to do their callings and function good, and so like the members are just kind of learning how to help us with missionary work. Everything's still kind of small, but it's really amazing to see how faithful they are and how much they really do love the gospel.
What crazy food you ate?
Cow brains.
What was one of the craziest experiences?
I think jumping onto a train that was moving one time because we were so late. We just jumped on a train like they do in movies.
What was one of the most spiritual experiences you had?
I definitely would say witnessing the baptisms and then testimonies of investigators.
What was a funny language mistake you or someone you know made?
I think the biggest one I made was always, because the end of the sentences, either O's means like masculine or is feminine, and sometimes I would like mix those up, or just I thought I was saying O, but to them it sounded like and so they're like, no, that's a boy, not a girl. No, that's a girl, not a boy. And I'm like, no, I thought I said O. No, you said So I think everyone laughed at that all the time.
What was the greatest life lesson you learned on your mission?
I think my greatest life lesson would be to be a better decision maker and learn to make good decisions and fast.
What was one of the best skills you gained on your mission?
I would say time budgeting and using time wisely.
What was the craziest weather you experienced?
That would be like wind and rain, crazy storm, almost like hurricane, but not quite.
And what was one of the hardest experiences you went through?
I think living with my first Latin companion for the first time and like really speaking the language 24/7 when I hadn't learned it all the way yet was definitely very trying.
And what's the best mission advice you can give?
Preach my gospel forever and ever, and never let preach my gospel be your almost number one resource, because it has answers to everything.
And what's the best advice you can offer to RNs?
Always remember your experiences, and always read your scriptures, because I know it can be hard to think you know everything when really there's so much more to learn. I served in one area, it's called San Miguel del Monte, and it was a tiny little town out away from everything in the whole world. Like we were about 50 minutes away from the nearest missionaries, but it was a super pretty town, and there was this big lake in the town, and so we would
it was very pretty to run around the lake in the morning or just pass by all the time on our bikes. But so it was a really small town, and so it was just a really small branch. And there were about like 10 active members in the branch. But I think that this branch was one of my favorite areas because it was so amazing to see the members of the branch, even though they were like far away, like this, the stake offices and the stake presidency was like an hour and a half or two away, and it's so hard for them to get transport there. Like, I think 2 members owned cars in that whole branch. 1 member owned a motorcycle. And so like to travel to, get a temple recommend interview or something, it was a big deal because they didn't have the car, they would have to take a bus or something. And the bus only passed through the town like every 2 hours. It was a ridiculous travel. And so you'd have to get on that bus, take that bus to a train station, and then take the train up to like the stake center. And so really, like, people didn't leave a lot. It was hard. It was even hard for us as missionaries to travel. Like, I remember one time we were coming home from something at night. I think it was a zone conference, and so we were traveling at night. And we were traveling on the bus, the only bus that ever goes in the city, and it broke down on the side of the road. And we were like kind of freaking out because we needed to be home by like 9 o'clock, and it was like already 8:30, and we were like, oh no, what do we do? And we were thinking about like calling a taxi or something, but they're just really expensive. But it was really cool because we were on the side of the road with all these people that were stranded on the bus. And it was funny because we had come from zone conference, and so we'd gotten some more like supplies for we had like a bunch of Book of Mormons with us and like packets of pass along cards, just holding it all in our hands or in our backpacks because we just needed more supplies in our apartment to give out to people. And so some people were kind of looking at us like, what are those people doing? Why do they have so many books in their hands and their backpacks are full? But we ended up talking to a couple people, which was just a really cool opportunity to have, on the side of the road, even though it was like dark and kind of cold outside. We just ended up talking to this group of people that were actually just kind of traveling through and visiting this area because it was a really good vacation spot. And so we talked about, the gospel to them, gave them a card, and we actually found out that one of their moms lives in this town, and so he gave us the address of the mom. So it was like a really good talk with them all night long, and then, well, not all night long, for like 20 minutes for the bus to get fixed. And then the next day or two, I don't remember when, we were actually able to go visit the mom, and she was like such a sweet person, and we had like a wonderful lesson with her. And we kind of taught her a lot. I actually got transferred before I ever knew what happened with her, but it was just really cool to see how we could, meet random people on the side of the street during a broken down bus, and then from one of those people meet his mom, and just to see how it all affects like that. And it was just really awesome, and his mom was a really great person, and we'd even like pass her in the city, and she'd always like wave to us like, oh, how are you, when are you gonna come see me again? So it was awesome. And then just other stories with this branch. I guess I was in this area for 4 transfers, so it was just like it kind of feels like my home sometimes. I loved it so much. I think I cried a lot. I told the president I never wanted to leave that area, but he said I had to. And it was kind of like a joke. Like the branch president always said that I was basically a member of the branch because I'd been there for so long, and I played the piano for the branch like on a little keyboard, and it was like halfway through my time there, and the branch president's like, you can just start choosing the songs. Like, I don't even know why I choose them anymore. So I felt pretty official, like I was the official music person for the branch. But I just love to see how the branch, they had like a young women's president, a Relief Society president and counselor, an elder quorum president, the branch president, and his counselor. And like that was basically all the callings because that was like everyone who had been there. And a ward mission leader, or the branch mission leader. And so everyone was basically in charge of something. And even though there was like 1 young woman, 3 primary children, and then like 3 other people in the Relief Society besides the presidency, and I just loved, I just admired them so much to see their faithfulness. And even though it was like super frustrating, like, okay, I'm gonna go prepare a lesson for 3 people, then it's like the same all the time and everything. But it was so much fun to see them. I think I learned the most from that branch and from the members. And as we started reactivating members in that branch, to see how the ward would react to that. I remember one there's this one sister who, like, we just kind of randomly knocked on the door. We had found her name on a list, and we're like, "Hi, we're the missionaries. Do you remember? Do you know who we are?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know who you are." And she's like, "But I'm inactive right now." And we're like, "Well, that's why we're here. We're gonna talk to you." So we just talked to her for a while, and we found out that she smoked, and so that was kind of like her problem. Like, she stopped to get baptized, but then throughout her life she started again, and so we just started visiting her every week to try to help her. And at first, she didn't really want to see us that much, but then as time grew on, she really started looking forward to our visits, and it was really hard for her to stop smoking, and so it was something that we were working on. But just to see her growth in the gospel is so amazing. It was like baptizing someone again, for me, and I was so happy. She started reading her scriptures more, and she loved reading the gospel because it took her mind off of not smoking. And so she said that she would read Daughters of My Kingdom, or she'd read the Leohonas, or the Ensigns, and she loved watching the church movies. One time we borrowed a bunch of church movies from a member and gave them to her, and she watched them all in 2 days. It was so amazing. And I remember almost towards the end of my last transfer, I think, she'd asked us, I'm still not obeying the word of wisdom, and this is still hard for me. I'm working on it. I'm getting down to less and less cigarettes every day. But she's like, "Can I bear my testimony in church?" And we're like, "Yeah, well, let us just check with the branch president to make sure it's okay." But because there was only 10 members in the ward, it's every member has to bear their testimony anyways on Fast Sunday, or else there's nothing happening. So he's like, "Yeah, that's fine." But I remember that Fast Sunday she didn't. But then the next Fast Sunday, it was such a miracle, because she went up there and bore her testimony, and I just remember I'm feeling like a proud mom or something. I'm like, "Oh, there she goes." And I remember her saying to the members, she was saying I know I'm not as strong as some of you in the gospel. I know I don't have as much as knowledge as some of you in the gospel, but I do know that I am trying, and I know that this is true, and I know that through Heavenly Father's love, I can be here. I can be clean all the way. And I just remember crying and just feeling so happy for her, knowing that she has found that testimony again. And though she was dealing with the trials of stopping the smoke, it was she was almost there, and I was so happy. And then I remember right after that, there was another boy that he hardly ever bore his testimony. He went up there. He was about 20 years old, I think, and he had recently been inactive, but he was reactivating. And he went up there and was talking about his family, and 3 of his siblings they're inactive right now, or 4, and his mom and dad are active. And so he was up there and he was saying how important it was to be an example to his family. And then he was saying that he knew if he went on a mission, it would bless his siblings so much. And so it was such a miracle to see that too, because he'd been struggling if he wanted to go on a mission or not, and all that kind of things. And so to see him say that he knew that his siblings would rejoin the church one day through his testimony and through the example of his parents was so amazing too. So it was a really good, I think that Fast Sunday stood out to me the most in the whole my mission. I always remember their testimonies and just how strong the gospel can be for this little branch out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I think the big thing that I learned going to Buenos Aires South, Argentina, or to any mission, is to learn to love the people. I know that many missionaries say the same thing. You're going to learn to love the people. And I honestly didn't feel. I hoped I would get to that point, but I didn't know if I would. But I can honestly say by the end of my mission, I was able to learn to love the people, and to learn to know and to recognize that every single person there is a son or daughter of God, and that they need to hear your message that you're bringing to them. And it's up to you and also the other missionaries in Buenos Aires South to preach that message. And I also learned to always follow the Spirit and always do the things like obeying the mission rules, reading the scriptures, praying, all those things, to have the Spirit as well. Because there was some nights too or some days where maybe my companion and I weren't getting along as great, and we didn't have the Spirit as well, and then that next lesson didn't go as well. So I think a big thing is to always do the things that you need to do to have the Spirit and to have the Holy Ghost with you, because a missionary really can't teach without the Holy Ghost. And I know that if you will do this and will strive to love the people and to serve the people, that you'll see success in your mission. It doesn't matter. Also, one other thing I also learned is that the number, it doesn't matter. The number of baptisms are great. Setting goals is awesome, but it's really not a number. It's a soul. It's a person that you're able to help come into Christ, which is huge. So I hope that you'll be able to recognize that and be able to go forward with faith and just have fun. Mission's awesome. So this was in the same area in Fabiano and Saudi, and that day we had like zero. Well, we had some appointments set up, but they all canceled. It's one of those days where you're just walking in the streets, doing contacts and everything. And so we're walking by this house, and I saw this lady outside, and she was sweeping her front porch area, and I just felt the prompting to go talk to her, just to make conversation with her. And I've heard stories, like awesome mission stories, where I felt the Spirit and everything to go and talk to this lady or whatever. But like I never thought that I would actually. I mean, I knew I could feel the Spirit, but I really felt it really strong at that moment to go talk to her. So I went up, and my companion and I went up and talked to her, and she just started bawling after. Well, we introduced ourselves and we talked about. I had the prompting to bring up the plan of salvation with her, and then after that she just started bawling. So I was kind of not freaked out, but I was like, okay, what did I say wrong? Why is she bawling? Well, then I realized that she was feeling the Spirit and everything, and she began to tell us that a few weeks ago, I think it was her dad passed away. And she's just been having a real rough, hard time with his passing, and didn't really know what was going to happen to him. So it was perfect setup to talk about the plan of salvation with her. So we were able to go inside and teach a little bit to her that day, and talk about the plan of salvation, and it helped her out a lot. And we didn't get to meet her husband though, because he was working. And we asked if we could come by another time so we could teach both of them together. And she kind of got hesitant. She was like, "No, my husband's not going to listen to you. He's going to throw you out." So we were like, "Oh, shoot!" But we kept persisting, and she was like, "Okay, you can come at this time." I don't remember when it was, and on this day. So we went back, and they actually weren't there. We actually lost contact with her I think it was for a few weeks. But one day we were walking by the house again, and we both felt prompted to go and knock on the door again. We were able to get in contact with her, and her husband was there. And it turns out that her husband loved everything we taught, which was awesome. He didn't throw us out at all. And so we began teaching the lessons with them. And he was actually looking for work. He didn't I think he got fired from his job, so he was looking for work. And he actually couldn't read either, which kind of put a step back in his looking for a job and everything. So we kept teaching him, and we would bring members over to teach him how to read too. He began to read. We taught him the word of wisdom, and he was a pretty good drinker too. And he just stopped doing that right off. I mean, they were golden investigators. And then so then eventually they got baptized. I think it was like 2 days before I got transferred, and it was just amazing to see that change in them, just from kind of rock bottom to where they are now. And then I actually got word, I think it was a few months ago, that they got sealed in the temple too. So I was like, yes, that is awesome. I wish I could have been there, but yeah, that was pretty awesome because they just went from just to see their growth was amazing.
First off, congratulations on getting your call to the best mission in the world. It really is the best. It's not anything to be scared of. Argentina will be a totally different environment, culture, living circumstance, different than anything you've ever experienced. And my biggest recommendation on that is just be humble and excited for it. If you think you know what you're getting into, you don't. So don't think you do. Be willing to accept whatever is going to come your way, because it's going to be the best time of your life up until this point. It's something you'll never forget, as long as you decide that it's something you want to enjoy. If you can be humble and not worry too much about everything that's going to go on, because you will struggle with the language, you'll struggle with the food, you'll struggle with the people and your companions and the different kind of housing. There are always things that you can struggle with, but it'll be up to you as to how you want to act with all of that. So I just encourage you to make sure that you are an actor, not the reactor, and find ways to just be able to remember what you're there for, because really the mission is the best time to prepare you for what is to come in the future. It may seem like the hardest thing at that time, and it may also seem like the best, but I can assure you that there will still be harder times ahead, and yet even better times ahead in your life. And the mission is really just a great time to prepare you with that base of your testimony and to provide you with the experiences to lean on when you do have those harder times. So be willing to accept whatever the Lord's going to put in front of you, and know that He's doing it for a reason. He's preparing you for so much more. At this point, you've prepared yourself to be able to go on a mission, and the mission is just going to prepare you to be able to handle the rest of your life. So don't let yourself lose that sight of what is to come, and really of what you're there for. Remember why you have a testimony, and if you're wondering at all about your testimony, just pray about it and find out, because that is the biggest thing for you to have on your mission. If you know what your testimony is and why you're there on a mission, nothing else is going to matter, because you'll be able to teach those people with any amount of power that you want to have. And you'll have the experiences that you dream of and that you want to be able to tell your kids and your family and your spouse later on in life, because the Lord wants you to have that, and it's just up to you to be ready for it. I think one of the biggest testimony builders for me in the mission was with one of our investigator families, that we didn't actually do the finding of them. We were in one of my areas. We were right next to we were next to the temple, which in Argentina, attached to the temple, there is their MTC. And at the time, it was just more like local missionaries that would go there, just the ones that were native Spanish speakers. And so for some of their practicing, they would go out every now and then and spend 8 hours just knocking doors and just kind of getting these kids to open up and to learn what it was like to have to open your mouth and talk to someone else on their doorstep about the gospel. And so they would always kind of do it at the end of their MTC time there. And so there was one day that we knew some missionaries had gone out, and then afterwards they put all of their referral names basically in their big pile, sent it all back through the MTC there. It gets all delved out to our mission president, basically it all gets down to us, and we'll get a couple of names of people that they spoke to, and it's still in the missionaries' handwriting as to whether or not they gave them Book of Mormon, or if they just kind of talked to them, they had some interest, whatever it was, but it was only the ones that they really kind of felt were promising. And normally it was just, we were able to bear our testimonies and they accepted that. Or, yeah, they want you guys to pass by and talk to them. A lot of times with those, they just wouldn't ever answer the door after that. They just said that so the elders would leave. But we had one that on the note card, it said that she had a lot of questions. She accepted the Book of Mormon on her doorstep, which that was kind of a rare thing. So we thought, this is kind of cool. We'll go by and go talk to this family. So we went by, they were there on Saturday. I think we went Monday. And when we showed up on Monday, she had already read through the first 6 chapters of First Nephi. And we sat down and started to talk to her, and she pretty much just stopped us and said, "This is what I've been looking for. When can I join?" And it was the coolest thing to find out that she had been an active member in 4 different churches throughout her life in that area. And when I say active, she was up in their leadership, kind of heading their relief society for each of the different churches, and was a huge part in the community with it. But she always felt like there was something missing. she was missing something more recent. You know, they were always going off of the Bible. They were always going off of different interpretations of the Bible. And even through the different churches she had been in, there was just different understandings, which to her, none of them quite seemed right anyway. And so she always knew, and this woman was probably in her late 30s. She had 3 kids, and you know, she just didn't know. She was using her best judgment, but just hadn't found what she was looking for. And before we had even shown up, she knew that the Book of Mormon was what she was missing. And so she was probably the fastest progressing investigator I ever had. She wanted to be baptized that first Sunday. We really wanted to go through with her and kind of get her kids on board, and her husband wasn't kind of on board. So we wanted to kind of take our time with it. And so when we came back a few days later, she had already finished First Nephi. You know, she had already prayed about it and had a really amazing experience for herself that really just confirmed for her that this was what she was missing, was having a prophet today, and having modern revelation was really kind of the key of what she knew what she was missing, even though she didn't know it. And the way she kind of said it was that it filled that hole within her that she didn't know how to fill it. And it was just through praying about it that she just knew. And so that was one of the coolest things, is that we were able then her husband still, he never wanted to meet with us. She said he had never had a part in any religion she had ever been a part of. So we weren't too surprised, but we never really got him to join with us, even in a conversation. He would just step outside whenever we got there. So it wasn't against us, but was never really about it. But you know, he was able to come to the baptism. But we baptized both her and her 2 children, as well as her niece and her niece's daughter, who lived there with them. So we were able to baptize all of them at that time. And I've kept in touch with them, and it's been 3 or 4 years since I've seen them. But she's now the Relief Society president. In fact, she was the Relief Society president within a year of being baptized. Both boys are both still active in the church, and they're like 15 and 16 now. And I was just talking with one of them last week through Facebook, and he's super excited that they changed the ages for the missions because he's excited to go on his mission. And that was probably the biggest success that I feel of my mission, is just knowing that not only did I get to baptize someone, but hopefully someone else will go on a mission and do the same thing.